Hello, everyone, and welcome back to yet another exciting episode of In Conversation With, the one-stop podcast for all your educational entertainment.
Today, we have a very special session lined up as we are joined by representatives from the British Council. Today, we'll be talking about IELTS, one of the world's most recognized English language proficiency tests. Whether you're planning to study, work, or migrate abroad, IELTS is a name that comes up as a key to unlocking these international doors.
In this episode, we'll dive in to the ins and outs of the IELTS test, how it's structured, the skills it measures, and some tips and insights for anyone looking to take the test. We'll also discuss the impact of English proficiency in today's globalized world and hear directly from the experts on how IELTS has evolved over time to meet the needs of test takers worldwide.
So whether you're an aspiring test taker, a teacher, or just curious about the IELTS experience, this episode is packed with valuable information you won't want to miss. Let's get started and welcome our esteemed guests from the British Council, Ms. Sayira Banu and Mr. Adil Imran.
All right, before we start with the questions, could we just mention how big of an honor it is to have you guys here? I feel like for anyone in school, CBSE, ICSE, any school around the world, in Dubai, IELTS is the go-to organization for anything.
Yep.
I've been to IELTS for my education. He lives in IELTS practically. We're all very it's our pleasure to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we start with the questions.
Okay, let's get started. So ma'am and sir, our first question is, could you tell us about the origins of IELTS and its significance in today's academic and professional world?
Okay, so IELTS is a test. It started in the 1980s. It was known as IELTS, and then it became the international one, so it became IELTS. The first exam was in 1989. So IELTS is co-owned by three partners. So we have the British Council, whom we represent. Then we have Cambridge University and Press English Assessment, and then we have IDP as well. So these three organizations co-own IELTS. So we overall globally, and we support in delivering the exam. So British Council and IDP we help in delivering the exam, whereas Cambridge is in terms of research and helping with the content and format of the exam.
Amazing. Okay.
Moving on to the next question. What are the main reasons, in your opinion, that students should consider taking the IELTS test?
So the students of your school and other schools usually take IELTS because most of the major universities around the world require IELTS, and this is one of the reasons. And there are 4 skills that are tested here, which is listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And this is pretty much why students take IELTS.
Just to add on to that, when it comes to why the students have to give, it's to kind of give an upliftment to your CV when you're applying. You can't actually mention your school scores anywhere, but on a CV, you can write IELTS band 8, 7.59, and anyone who sees it will understand what it means. You can't write, if you're CBSE, you can't write grade 10 board 90% and grade 12 board 95%. It does not have the impact. Or you're doing any other curriculum, you can't write, say, A* in 5 subjects, and you can't mention that. But when it comes to IELTS, because in the global world that we're in, that language is what connects us all. English language, irrespective of where you go, that language really connects us all. So I think even as students or even professionals, it's very important that it's part of something you do. You give that exam just to understand where you are, and it helps at the end of the day with whichever opportunity you're looking to knock on.
Great. On a side note, ma'am and sir, have you given the IELTS examination?
I didn't have to give the IELTS examination because I had a decent score for my IGCSE, and that's why I got exempted from doing the IELTS exam. And it's very similar to the Cambridge exam. I mean IGCSE.
So he was British curriculum, so
I got to skip IELTS. But yes, most of you guys would have
Have
to
to
do
do
IELTS at the end of the day.
And ma'am?
I have. I gave it for my master's admissions. I had to give it, and that was me quite some time ago. Yes. Do you need to know my scores? Okay, that is
Later, for the end of the interview.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Moving on to the next question. Before we move on to the next question, I'm really curious about your education because I think we'll be able to resonate more if we understand
Yeah.
what educational background you guys have come from. So, sir, starting off with you.
Right. So firstly, my name is Adil Imran Asif, and yeah, so starting with my bachelor's, I'm not mentioning my school and everything, but yes, bachelor's, I did my bachelor's in marketing. It's called BA Honours Marketing at Middlesex University, followed by my master's in corporate and marketing communications, as Master of Science in corporate and marketing communications. So it's more of research. That's something that I've been involved with, and yeah, this is pretty much my
Amazing. Okay. And ma'am?
Oh, with me, I've done my bachelor's in business management at Christ University in Bangalore. And then I've done my MC in finance at Hiratwat University here in Dubai. So that's pretty much my education.
Amazing. Okay. So moving on to the next question. What are the most common challenges students face while preparing for the IELTS, and how can they overcome them?
I think one of the main challenges in IELTS is not understanding the format of the exam. So you have probably thinking that it would be same as your academic English exam where you are tested on a particular chapter or literature, but IELTS is not that. It's very generic. It is to test your language proficiency, and people kind of go to give the exam. Oh, it's an English exam. How difficult can it be? They don't prepare for the content or the format of the exam, and I think that is something where we come in, where we want to provide awareness to students on what the exam is all about and what do you need to look out for, and that it's not as difficult as people tend to make it sometimes, especially for those who've studied in English all their school life. It's just about understanding the format of the exam and working towards it, and then it's just a cakewalk.
And to add to that, time management is very important for us because most of them, since they don't practice and go in for the exam, they struggle with timing. For example, reading is 60 minutes. If they do not skim read and they don't read through the questions first up, it's going to get hard to finish it off. So they do face a challenge. I've seen this quite a bit. So that's something that you can add on to what you said.
So, I want to study in the UK, so I'm looking at taking IELTS early next year. So I have tips now from the experts. Good to know. Okay, moving on. You guys mentioned that an important habit is time management. So coming on to other habits, how important is consistency and practice when you are preparing for IELTS? And what are your key tips to stay motivated during the same?
See, whenever you're giving any exam, it's important that you understand what's your end goal and then you practice towards it. There's nothing that you get where you just go give it and you get the score you're looking for. So first of all, before you actually start sitting for the IELTS exam, you have to do your research on what programs you actually want to apply for, what universities you want to apply for, what are their requirements, because each university, each program has a different requirement. So very important to first find that out. And once you know your target score, then you start planning your time and practice. Practice is essence. Time management is essence. A lot of times what people do is they just go watch YouTube videos or Instagram reels, learn from that, and they go like, oh, it's okay, well, let's go. But that's not enough, because sometimes you need to know your current topics as well. So in terms of the IELTS exam, the content keeps changing to keep it up to date with current global context. So it's very important for you to be also aware of what's happening around, because we've had a lot of times where students have come in and they've been asked a very general question of what's happening around the world and they could not answer because they are not aware about it. So in terms of coming back to the question, how do you kind of manage all of that? We usually say for any students about 4 to 6 weeks before the exam. That's the kind of practice time we say. But that 4 to 6 weeks is if you're looking for just a 0.5 to 1 band jump. If you think your current level is, say, 5, band 5, but you're looking for, say, band 7.5, that's what you're aiming for, we would say at least a minimum of 3 months of practice, because you're looking for a 2.5 band jump, which is a very high jump. So this is, if I have to say in terms of exams, say you are at 50% or 60% and you're aiming for a 90% or a centum, if I have to put it that way, you need to put at least a year or a year and a half amount of work. And we're not talking about, 3 hours every day. It could be just 30 minutes to an hour every day, but practicing and enhancing your English. Most of us where English is not our first language, we always tend to speak in our mother tongue and then translate it to English. And that becomes a huge issue because the grammar in your mother tongue and the grammar in English will be way different. And this is something where we've seen in a lot of Arab students because the grammar over there is male, female, even for objects. But in English, you don't have male, female for objects. It's only for, living things. So when you change it, then when you translate it to English, it gets really difficult. So, you have to ensure that you do the practice material that's available. You don't need to go for a course per se. But yes, if it's a 2.5 band that you're looking at, we would always recommend to do a course, but use all the free material that's available to prepare.
So I think multilingual people face more issues.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, ma'am, our next question is, and sir, with advancements in technology and AI, how do you see IELTS evolving in the future?
So at the moment, we have advanced quite a bit during the COVID period, if you look at it. We have the computer delivered IELTS, as well as we had IELTS online that was developed around COVID. And IELTS, the computer delivered exam, was not preferred that much before COVID, if you look at it. If I'm not giving a percentage to it, but yes, it was more of paper-based before. But then post-COVID, since everyone's been sitting at home and everything like that, people have, been more with the computers and everything. And that's something that has, generated a lot of volumes for us rather than paper-based now. So paper-based has declined and computer-based has gone forward. It's a huge volume. And IELTS Online is something that we developed over COVID, and then that is something that was just introduced in certain countries, which I don't know if it would be introduced here, but I'm not expecting it in the next near future for sure.
In terms of AI is kind of something we can't negate in the upcoming things. So there are a lot of work going on behind the scenes where they're working to see how AI can be incorporated into the exam. But what we kind of stand by on is that irrespective of how exams are, it requires a human element. Especially, say, when we're speaking, we would like to speak to an actual person rather than to a robo or, on a screen. But we do understand a lot of them don't want a human person in front of them when they're doing their speaking. They feel that the expressions demotivate them from speaking. So we can't cater to everyone's needs, but we want to stand by our golden standard wherein we still think human element is important, but that does not mean we would stay by our, old ways and say we will not move forward. So depending on the feedback we get, things are in place, things will change, IELTS will change in the future. They have been changing, it keeps changing. Earlier we used to have IELTS listening used to be on speakers. You used to go into a classroom and you used to be on speakers. Now we have wireless headphones that are provided. You used to have speaking with an actual person ahead of you. Now that has been advanced to the examiner available through a screen, especially post-COVID. So that means we have availability of more examiners globally. So you probably are giving an exam to an examiner sitting in some other country. That gives a lot of exposure to you as a test taker as well. So AI is not something to be ignored. It's always there, and IELTS will evolve along with it.
I've given the DELF examination, which is, I think, the equivalent of IELTS in French. So I think the developmental aspect is relatively more in IELTS than compared to other examinations, because as you mentioned, the listening section of the French examination, we had speakers. So the audio is a little blurry,
yes.
You were missing on words, and especially...
Someone puffs.
Exactly. So especially, and I'm a Hindi student as well. So, just to miss those words here and there, it's quite tricky. So I think that's another aspect.
I love how when you were talking about that, ma'am, when someone coughs. Did someone cough during your exam?
Oh, so many. So when I did, it was on speaker, and I think in the room, we were about 50 students in the room. So each time someone would move their chair and the thing is, when you're giving an exam, you want a quiet room, but some people can be very loud, even when they're sitting for the exam, like, when they're writing, it's loud. You can hear them scratching on the paper, even though it is just probably multiple choice in the first few questions. So it does get very difficult. So all of this gets put into feedback and everything keeps, because if you don't evolve, you will not be able to meet the requirements of the current students. So that's always going to be there.
Absolutely.
I'm glad I don't have to listen to IELTS on speakers. Okay. Now we've talked about the evolution of IELTS, how it's ever evolving. So going to the future a little bit, what are any new features or initiatives that we as students should look forward to in the future?
In terms of new features, so one of the things that everyone always came back to us is that if they don't get a particular score in a particular skill, they have to sit for the whole exam again. So one of the things that was launched last year is called a one-skill retake. So if you've given the IELTS exam and then you are not happy with a particular skill, you can retake just that skill in the next 60 days and you would get a revised result with that skill remarked, right? So that is something that's coming in. Also earlier, if you do the IELTS on paper exam, your results take 13 days. So we are not able to reduce that, right? So we came up with the IELTS on computer because we realized that will be with AI technology coming in, students are more comfortable to sit on computer. They're not happy with their handwriting, or they've not held a pen for more than 10 minutes. So imagine writing a writing exam for 60 minutes. It gets difficult. So in IELTS on computer also now, in terms of the results, it earlier was 3 to 5 days. Now you're getting your results within 48 hours. So that makes a huge difference. And, a lot of the changes is in confidential, which I can't say, but yes, a lot of changes are coming in, and we are looking at whatever feedback we get and always gets incorporated.
Amazing. Okay. So, ma'am, our next question is specifically for you. Can you share your journey on becoming a part of the British Council and what inspired you to work with such an internationally recognized organization?
Okay, great. So basically, my whole career has been with this organization. So I've almost completed a decade in this organization. So post-college, I actually started as a venue staff, so freelance work with them, where I was supporting them with delivery of exams. So I used to do IELTS, I used to do ACCA exams, so basically supporting them with delivery of exams. And then obviously what worked well for me was I was closer to the office, so if they would call for additional work, I was the person who could come within 15 minutes. So that was how I got in. So I was working as a temp staff, supporting them with work, and then I got my first permanent job and I moved to Abu Dhabi. Actually, I worked in Abu Dhabi for about 2 years in the operations team. So I was helping with IELTS. So from there, moved back to Dubai, and I've been in Dubai since 2017. So it's been a while. So from IELTS operations, I've moved into business development because I like speaking to people, I like presenting, I like talking. So I thought that move would be really good for me. And with my business management and finance background, I thought this career move would be much better for me, much suited to me than just sitting in the office and doing all the operational work. So yes, it has been a great change. So I started as an account relationship officer, and I've moved into the account relationship manager role. In terms of how our work is we support a lot of partners across the UAE. I and Adil basically work for Dubai and Northern Emirates. So any university, school, training institute, anywhere where we think we can support, we would like to be there and partner with that organization and support. So that's me. Over to you.
And so on your journey?
On my journey, so yes, post my bachelor's, it was COVID when I finished my bachelor's, and jobs availability was very limited. So whatever came my way, I just took it. So I got into something called Dubai Euro Group. They're into switchgear manufacturing. So that's something that I would have never imagined of probably taking up. But then yes, I joined that, and then probably it's a lot about electrical which I was not really interested in at first. But yes, I went on, sat with all the team leaders and everyone and tried to understand how the product works and how everything is done there. Because it's switchgear assembling, so there's something that I did not have an idea on.
Yeah.
So I on the job training sort of thing, where I took about 2 to 3 months to understand how everything is working. Then I started shadowing my managers to understand how each meeting is done and how the technical part of it works through. And I was a marketing executive there, and I started coordinating all their projects and everything. They were taking projects all around the UAE, so I kept traveling with them, and that was pretty much my role there. Then I moved into Eaton, which is another multinational, by the way. They are into the electrical. I mean, it's a step ahead that I got. You might have heard of Schneider Electric for sure.
Yes, yes.
So it's a competitor of Schneider, which is Eaton. They're into aerospace mainly, and they also have this electrical wing. So that's where I was working. I was handling supply side for them. So I was handling Abu Dhabi and Alain. So, handling the suppliers, going to having B2B meetings as well as B2C meetings, and going around with the suppliers to understand what the market needs and what are we lacking in, and to give a better picture to the company. So that is what my role was there. And post that is when I joined British Council. It was a very different sort of organization from what I was in before. This is more, I would say it's more streamlined. Firstly, because there it's you have people from all backgrounds in the electrical industry. It's not straightforward. I don't know if you guys would understand what I mean by that. Here it's a lot more streamlined and straightforward, and you have a certain system that you're going through, and it's not another way.
Yeah.
Another way as in there's under the table, there's a lot of things that
Yeah.
is involved in the field of business.
Absolutely.
So this is something that helped me develop my skill and sort of streamline myself in a way that, on how to deal with a lot of customers. And I've been shadowing her initially, and now I've been going out quite a bit. And this is something that has developed myself. And during my period at British Council, I also completed my Masters in Middlesex, which just evolved. It just helped me evolve. And that's pretty much how my journey has gone through. It's just been about 6 years now. It's the 6th year. And yes, so far it's been good. And over the last few years, I've been doing a lot of volunteering. I do a lot of events. So this is something that I'm also interested in. And I also play cricket, as you can see. So yes.
We're going to hold you on that answer. The next question after this one.
I think Azam is from commerce, so I think you can relate quite
Yep,
a lot.
yep, a lot.
It's,
Okay. Ma'am, the next question specifically for you. Yeah, we love your answers. Okay. As an account relationship manager / officer, what does a typical day look like for you? And how do you ensure effective client management across different regions?
So in my line of work, one of the most important thing is obviously client relationships. If you can see we don't call ourselves as business development, we call ourselves as account relationship, because it's all about maintaining the relationship. My main job is the partnerships that I have. So we have various partnerships with various organizations, and it's not one solution fits all kind of a thing. You have to customize each thing for each person. So it's something on the job we keep learning, where we have to keep talking to people and, kind of changing your answer each time they call. Sometimes I have some partners calling me for the same thing every second week. But I can't say that, 2 weeks ago I told you how to do it.
Yeah.
I still have to go like, okay, let me take you through the whole process again. So a lot of times, for us, on a daily basis, is troubleshooting. Any problem they have, we have solutions to fix it. Or the other option is, like in banks, you have something called priority banking, right? So we are kind of those priority bankers where we go like, you are our very important customer. You call us and we'll get you things done ASAP. So that's what we do. So they call us and we get things done immediately, even if it means talking to 5 different teams. So we do that. And if they probably have to come as a regular customer, it might take them, say, 2 or 3 days to get an answer. But because they are a B2B partner, we would be able to get them answer probably within an hour and not 3-4 days. In terms of effective management, I think it boils down to communication and kind of understanding what they want and be able to give that solution, but also be humble enough that if you don't know the answer, to let them know that you would get them an answer. There have been instances where we haven't gotten the answer, but we have to go and tell them that, listen, this is something new, it's out of the box, and we have a lot of people to involve, and we will try to get you an answer. But sometimes we do have to have the bad answer or the sad answer saying that, sorry, we can't help you on this. But yes, account relationship, as in the relationship is key. Communication is key. So yeah, that's kind of our day. Morning starts with calls. I think our evenings ends with calls.
All right.
Great.
Okay, so this next question is Argam's question. Can I please steal it? Can I please steal it? Can I please steal it? Okay, yeah, fine. I'm so excited for this question because I'm commerce as well, so I get it. Outside of work, we've noticed that some of your interests are cricket and volunteering. How do you balance these hobbies and your busy professional lives?
So yes, that is quite challenging, to be honest, because I started volunteering at the age of 16, to be honest. So my first volunteering work was with Abu Dhabi Music and Arts Foundation. This was a charity event, and I was the youngest there. It was quite new to me, and I had to get suited up, and I didn't know about all of that. So yes, that was my first experience, and post that I started liking what I was doing there, because it was a lot of learning, and obviously it was a charity event too. That was something that I was sort of attracted towards. Then post that, I worked at Formula 1 when I turned 18. That was my first event experience, which is obviously prestigious, and this is something I always wanted to be a part of. And I was handling a bit of ticketing. Then after a while I got promoted as a supervisor on the third day, because there was one of the supervisors who went missing on the second and third. So then I was pulled in, and I was handling the Ferrari club, and that was quite interesting, which obviously I'm crazy about Ferrari and all those cars and stuff, so it's just Ferrari owners there. So yes, I was dealing with all of them. It was a lot of fun. Then post that I worked with UN, which is called the UN conference, which is UNIDO, which happened in 2019, if I'm not wrong. This is when Qatar was not allowed to enter UAE. If you remember, there were issues going on. So yes, around that, I was handling the speakers. Communication between speakers. There were four, the speakers were, it was converted into 4 languages, and there was a Chinese speaker, there was a French speaker, and there were multiple other languages. So it's basically speaker management part of it, and it was a lot of fun. It was a 1-week event, which I would never forget, and I have the certificate for that. That's something I went for. And yes, it was a great experience. I got to make a lot of friends in that, and people who work for the UN directly. So that's something that I was a part of. Then the next one was the Asia Cup, which was conducted here in 2019 or 2020. I don't exactly remember.
2020.
Around that time. So I'm a huge cricket fan, like you might have understood. So I wanted to get around the Indian team. That's one of the reasons I applied for this. And yes, I worked there, and there as well, luckily, I got promoted as a supervisor handling the BCCI box.
Wow.
So all the cricketers' wives, and we directly got to meet the players. But then obviously there were restrictions on camera, and I couldn't take pictures along with them. But yes, that was another experience. It was really nice because, for example, India versus Pakistan was something that was so hyped up. And the security was doubled. Usually it's about 200 securities, and for India versus Pakistan it went up to 450 securities. And there are a lot of informations come through. And the operations part of it, it's a lot interesting to understand how they work about it. And that's something that, keeps me going towards events and just to understand how things work. Then post that, there are a lot more other events. Now I can't recollect. But this is this has been my journey throughout the event part of it. Cricket, I have played, my highest level of cricket that I've played is Abu Dhabi Under 19, which was, I don't know, a few years back. And then post that, I've been playing with multiple clubs. I still am. And yes, that's something that is a part of my hobby, and I try to make time for that. I know it's, if you say there's no time, then you would end up with no time.
Yeah.
But you have to make that effort to, sort of find time to it. Because everything, obviously takes a lot of effort.
Yes.
And weekends, I keep myself busy. I do not like sitting idle. So, cricket or something or the other. Make sure, even you guys young, I would say, get yourself as busy as possible. Don't be relaxed. Go out of your comfort zone, work more, do a lot of events. You get to learn a lot. You understand the value of money if you start doing the event. Because, for example, Formula 1 wasn't a joke. You had 15 hours straight that you had to stand for. And this is something that I've never done before in my life. And yes, that gives you a lot of happiness once you're done with the event. And a lot of nice experiences, and you get to meet a lot of celebrities, Formula 1 drivers, and so on. Obviously, it's a great experience. You guys should definitely go once you guys are 18, I would say.
Definitely. I love that I stole that question. I'm so sorry.
It's completely okay. Okay. So, ma'am and sir, we have obviously talked about the possible suggestions that the students should adapt before giving the IELTS examination. And our final question for today is based upon that itself. What is one piece of advice you would give every student planning to take the IELTS?
Make sure you register well in advance, firstly, because what people do is every single time I've seen a lot of students coming, just 1 week before, or maybe just 3-4 days before, and they just register, and they'll be like, oh, I didn't get the right score. That's not how you sort of, prepare for an exam. You have to register well in advance, at least 2 weeks, because you guys are all studying in an English medium school, I understand. But then IELTS is a different thing altogether, I'm telling you. It's not the usual sort of English exam, because you're tested on listening, reading, writing, and speaking, which is a completely different format from what you do in CBSE or maybe another sort of syllabus. So you have practice materials available. You have IELTS Ready Premium, which we launched exclusively for students, you would say, or people who are taking IELTS, which was developed just a few years back. And we had something called Road to IELTS before that. So IELTS Ready Premium is something that was developed post a lot of feedback that we received. So you have live feedback that you receive post an exam, and you know how to get a high score. Suppose you get a band score of 6, you know how to get a high score. They would give you what is needed to get a band score of 7, and what would a band score of 5 look like. So those are a few interesting materials that we have developed, which has to be used by all you guys, because that's what's very important, and those things would help in your results. And make sure pass it on. It's a very important sort of tool that can be used. So I would suggest make sure, speak to your friends, family, and your extended people. Understand and register well in advance so that you have enough time to prepare, and you don't have to give it again after that.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So do it once, do it properly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I like for the same thing. It's about planning. You know that you have to give that exam, but you would like to push it to the end. Whereas my advice would be like, if you are, especially in, say, grade 11 or year 12, if I have to say about both, finish it before it gets difficult, because it's valid for 2 years. So you do by end of your grade 11, you still have 2 years to, finish your grade 12 and apply for universities. A lot of them push it to post during grade 12, and, you already have your exams. You are already pressurized. It gets really difficult to do the exam. So we would say like IELTS should be one of the first things you tick off of your list that's required for your applications. Get it done so you have it this. And just like Adil said, it's very important to register for the exam at a proper time. Use the materials that are available properly, because the platform that Adil mentioned, which is the IELTS Ready Premium, has about 40 questions in terms of 40 exams that are available, and that's just for mock. You have about 100 exercises for practice, and you have webinars, you have blogs that are available, pre-recorded webinars, and this is all part of the test fee. It's free of cost. You're not paying anything for it. Use that, and I'm sure you would get a good score or achieve the score you're aiming for. Just don't go sit for the exam without any practice. That would be my last tip, that please practice before you go. Don't go sit for the exam without even understanding what the examiners are going to be looking for. So if they are going to be looking for ABC format, but you go write XYZ format, even if the answer is wrong, you might not get the scores. So just understand what they're looking for. But just one more misconception I would like to kind of remove is the English. A lot of them are confused about, should I write American English, should I write British English? And then they see us and they're like, ma'am, I think it should be British English. And we're like, no, yes, understandably, my organization's name is British Council. But it's not British English. You can write American or British English. But what we always advise is don't mix the two of them. Try to stick to a certain one. But the funny part is nowadays students don't even know which is American English and which is British English. So as long as your grammar and your words are properly used, it's fine. So yeah, just to kind of dispel that misconception about English, just use the right English and you should be good to go.
All right. Perfect. Okay, we're adding on to a question, the last question.
Right.
Ma'am, you've taken the IELTS exam, yeah? What is one thing that you do differently that you would want us as students to do differently?
So when I did it was quite some time back, and the content and the kind of format of the exam has changed quite a bit. So for me, what I would say is being aware of what's happening around, understanding what's happening around. A lot of them still don't know about AI, and suddenly if someone's given a question about AI, they're just going to be looking around because they don't know what to write. A lot of times, especially I'd say speaking, we have this thing that suppose if they ask you a question about, say, sports, and you're not someone who's into sports, you would not even be able to answer. So for me, the thing is being aware about everything that's going on, understanding how to answer, and even if it means just 2 or 3 sentences, to be able to speak in English and not be like, oh, I don't know what this means. So that's very important, I feel.
Okay, perfect. That's it for the questions today. But there is one key aspect that we have not addressed. Ma'am, your IELTS scores. Everyone's been waiting.
So I got a 7.5.
That's...
which was not...
we have a woe from backstage.
That's amazing.
Was,
amazing.
I was not happy about it because I wanted a band 8, but obviously writing was the issue. So that kind of pulled me down, but yes, 7.5.
When she wrote it, there was no IELTS Ready Premium, by the way.
Otherwise,
she would have
So that 7.5 is basically
Probably.
It's basically
Amazing.
basically which is a 9. Yeah. We had a woe from backstage.
That's one of the questions we always get asked. So like, have you given the exam? You're talking about it. And we're like, yeah, we've given it, but we've given it quite some time ago. But we know the amount of pressure you're facing and we know how difficult it is. And that's why we keep telling, please manage your time, please plan things earlier. So a lot of times we tell people, do during your summer vacations, do during your winter break. Your studies is always important, but this is also something that's going to help with your studies. So please finish that as well. So yes, plan and give the exam.
Because universities make sure, you are sort of listing down the universities that you're applying to and try and get what they require well in advance, at least 6 to 8 months in advance, because the requirements pretty much stay the same. So try and get that and make sure you're shortlisting those universities and not keeping it towards late end, because application deadlines are very strict. IELTS has to be given before that and submitted. So this has happened multiple times. I've gotten a lot of calls saying, oh, can I sort of give it and can you give me the result immediately? I'm like,
yeah, they have a deadline, like say day after tomorrow, and they go like, can we give the exam today? But we have deadlines.
Well.
Yeah,
there are people who have lost a year, so I don't want you guys to do that. So plan well in advance. Do the exam early. You have enough time now. I mean, I don't know what grade you are in.
I'm in 11.
Grade 11. And
I'm in grade 12.
Grade 12. So do it
the
as
break
soon as possible.
between grade 11 to grade 12 when you're having your bridge classes and all that. You could do that 2 weeks.
So even December break should be good enough.
Yes.
Or anything. Take it serious, because half of them will be like, oh, it's fine, it's just another English exam. It's not that way. It's just slightly more harder than the actual English exam. So make sure you practice and you should be good to go.
Yep, I've been to IDP for their counseling sessions and
Yes.
they've given a time lab, which
Right.
is my bridge classes, well before summer vacation. So I think I'm set. Argam, are you set? Are you set?
Absolutely.
Okay. That is it for this interview today. We had an amazing time. Thank you guys for giving us valuable answers. I think our IELTS score TMS is going to have the highest. We're going to have the highest by far. Okay, and that's it for the In Conversation with episode with the British Council representatives.
Signing off in conversation with.